Hello, everyone. I want to thank you all for giving us this time to listen to me today. And I also want to thank the ET team for providing this wonderful opportunity through this amazing platform. My name is Assem, and I work as a senior product manager at Asia Pacific for Akamai Technology. Today, I'm here to talk about one of the most important topics, which is the role of cybersecurity and what role cybersecurity plays in building a digital trust, specifically for countries like India, which is digitally advancing itself on day-to-day basis. So the journey of India in terms of digital evolution and the digital spread is fantastic. If you look at last 6 or 7 years, so we see more and more penetration of internet ecosystem in India. This is some snippets from the joint study conducted between MIT and McKinsey. Some of the key takeaways from that study is that India now is amongst the top two countries globally in terms of digital adoption and acceleration rates, right? More and more digital platforms and APIs are being rolled out that helps different enterprises and different agencies within governments to interact with different platforms within the government services. We see India as being one of the fastest growing digital markets globally, and COVID has only accelerated the digital transformation across many business verticals, including government services in India. However, right, the digital adoption directly correlates with the trust the consumers place on the digital channels. If you see what has happened across last few years, there's definitely a trend towards more and more cyber attacks being targeted towards digital infrastructures, more so for governments. One of the attacks that come to my mind specifically is the attack on the pipeline in US, which kind of disrupted the fuel supplies across different states. Right? We have also seen in India repeated cyber attacks, which have been called out by government agencies as well on the electricity infrastructure. The CERT reports, significant growth of these attacks happening in India, right? So as we continue to see more and more climb in digital adoptions globally, more so in India, the number of attacks and such cyber incidents will continue to peak because of the different motivations that attackers have. So COVID, while on one hand we've seen significant traffic growth, both on Akamai platform as well as globally, more and more countries as the users continue to operate from home. Most of us, our reliance on digital and especially the internet ecosystem has grown multifold. So when it comes to building the digital trust, two most important pillars of that is experience and security. Right? There is a bit of study that Akamai did with CDG, and based on the study, and the surveying across multiple, government services and the governments globally, two main things that emerge is that the users or the consumers really care about experience. So how do we make our services accessible, our network accessible in a secure way, 24/7? There's a notion amongst users that the expectancy from accessibility perspective is more like an e-commerce service. This is no longer just about looking at a government service and thinking that yes, it is going to be slow. More so now, a lot of focus is given on providing much better experience. Security is of another paramount importance in this puzzle. A lot of consumers, including the end consumers like citizens or even the own employees of the governments, absolutely want to make sure that there is a dynamic and reliable way of interacting with government services and agencies and portals, and the user data is not compromised in any way. So combination of experience and security brings about creating a strong foundation of digital trust. It's very important as we talk about different digital initiatives being run across different part of country to understand how that is contributing to your expansion of attack surface. The more digital you go, obviously the more expanded your attack surface is. So when it comes to a public sector, specifically government services, you're going to be thinking about different cyber threats that will attack different components of your infrastructure. So attacks like advanced persistent threat ransomware are extremely common and becoming more sophisticated. Phishing attacks are becoming extremely sophisticated and more targeted, for government sector. We see uptick in DDoS attacks targeted against, critical infrastructure. Specifically, application and API attacks are more focused on exfiltrating the sensitive data or private data from the government interfaces, including APIs. And then there's a lot more focus now towards consuming the services or trying to find a business logic flaw in the applications that gives the attacker the way to unauthorized, for the unauthorized access. Protecting critical infrastructure, which is of paramount importance to pretty much all the governments worldwide, containing services such as transport, banking, power grid as an example, is of really crucial importance, especially when we are seeing growing attacks against critical infrastructure. Attacks such as advanced persistent threat phishing are becoming more common. The interfaces that are exposed on the internet, such as APIs that handle the core functions such as login, are being targeted more frequently. The legacy systems that are still present in many part of the critical infrastructure, have vulnerabilities and are being exploited in the wild. The DDoS attacks continue to target the service availability. An example of that could be the attacks the escalating series of attacks that we saw, against the different power grids or the electrical grids, right? The intention from the attackers being that we will disrupt the electrical supply, right? And then one of the key challenges, specifically, when you're trying to protect the massive infrastructure such as this, is to apply the right set of or consistent security controls. All of these systems may not be talking to each other. They could be disjointed systems. Applying the security controls that work in a same way or a consistent way and apply the consistent layer of security across these systems is of real importance and one of the most significant challenges that public sector faces today. Now, as more and more users continue to interact with different part of government services, different agencies continue to consume data and applications from different systems, the traditional sense of network perimeter no longer exists. Your network perimeter is beyond your sight and is no longer static, right? If you look at the traditional trust model, the left side or the right side, that's how we distinguish it, right? What is trusted and what is not trusted. So everything inside the network is trusted, everything outside is not trusted. That's how the traditional networks are built. However, the recent architectural reviews have suggested that this notion is no longer true. As we embrace in different platforms, including cloud and different sort of services that get exposed to different set of users, the users and data continue to operate in a very hostile environment. So we always have to assume that our data and applications are always operating in a hostile environment. Doesn't matter if it is in your intranet or DMZ or on the public access, right? And that's why the digital transformation demands that we evaluate a new security model, which we called as a zero trust security model, which works on the principle that you've got to trust everything, but have to verify every single instance of access attempt. It's not a product, it's more of an architectural approach of how you can build a strong foundation of providing better security to your data and applications by verifying each and every access attempt based on things like identity of the user, right? The role of the user, as an example. That's what is changing across different government and agencies. Is as they embrace or starting to embrace the zero trust based security architecture. The other key piece that the security plays a really important aspect for public sector is citizen services. As more and more governments roll out, customer facing or the citizen facing interfaces and different services, we continue to see uptick in DDoS attack, application and API attacks, because all of these interfaces are exposed on the public internet for the consumption. Now, obviously, they are also exposed to the attackers, and attackers, will try to break into the system using different methods, including, application and API attacks like SQL injection, cross-site scripting. They could be attacking the user browsers to exfiltrate the user data from there, right? But essentially, the security of search services now has to evolve, like an enterprise class service. The API adoption is growing multifold, across government sectors, more so in India, where, at least the published APIs, are touching close to 1,000 in numbers. I mean, I see that as 732 in API set to, but what that really means is that more and more integrations are being built with the APIs interfaces into different ecosystem of partner and services. And the current state of API security measures has lapses. So what most of the organizations today have are the traditional measures, looking at things like encryption, right, rate throttling, a sort of signature-based mechanism to look at API threats, right, providing some level of access control. So that's typically what is the strategy towards protecting APIs. But that's not enough, right? We know that API brings broader set of challenges and needs a better defense in depth strategy. So in terms of what exists and what organizations should be looking at is doing a more thorough API testing. So we do security testing, but we need to have more focused API testing. There needs to be a governance on the security policy built towards APIs to make sure you're consuming the APIs in the right way, that you have the visibility of how the consumption looks like, right? And what APIs are throwing errors versus what APIs are no longer receiving any traffic, as an example. Visibility is a big part of problem for many organizations. They could have hundreds of APIs, more so in the disjointed ecosystem across government entities or agencies, whereas a lot of them can have their own APIs. How do you get holistic visibility of your API ecosystem in a unified way, so that you're able to see which one of these APIs may have security problems, right? And then application security approach on the API, needs to be evolving. This is no longer just using the traditional web application firewalls or application firewalls protecting your APIs. They are inefficient to do so. You need better security controls to apply to your APIs. The other key element of building a solid foundation of cybersecurity, especially more so in the public sector, is acting on security based on the situational awareness, right? And that's where threat intelligence plays such an important role. And when it comes to threat intelligence, you ought to be looking into the different bits and pieces of what sort of data you're collecting, right? One piece is to collect a lot of data, which most of our organizations today don't have dearth of, right? I mean, as we speak, there are probably hundreds of devices within the organizations that may not talk to each other, and there are different data that are acting in silos. So having the right set of data, is of paramount importance when it comes to threat intelligence and security, right? So you got to be looking at location-based data. You got to be looking at different threat identifications, looking at the client intelligence, right? What sort of connections are coming from the different part of internet, such as darknet, right? You'll be looking at application-based attack feeds. You got to be looking at, because a lot of these attacks actually get routed through the proxies. You need to have inbuilt proxy detection to make sure you're actually getting visibility towards the real culprits who are targeting your infrastructure, right? You got to be looking at if there are any BGP-based change events that might be because of some vulnerabilities on the telco side or ISP side or the BGP side, right? You also need to understand the usage patterns, right? How the attackers are consuming different content across the internet. Try to be able to come with predictive patterns, right? And again, network performance and monitoring is a big piece of information that needs to be included as a part of the threat intelligence, because that makes your intelligence and analysis more complete. Looking at BGP changes, looking at how the internet is behaving in a specific set of location versus the other, how the internet core points are behaving, different DNS servers through which the client connections are coming in. That gives you a holistic visibility of how the attackers are leveraging the internet to get to your digital assets. So essentially, while we've spoken about the different threats and trends, what we are seeing, I want to spend next couple of minutes talking about what it takes to build a right security architecture, which can lay a strong foundation of trust on the digital footprint, right? And essentially, as I've spoken earlier, with the evolving infrastructure and the user landscape across different entities, including government, the security architecture has to evolve, right? What we believe is that the right security architecture is the one that helps you combat both security challenges as well as the user experience challenges, and deliver the security, and the performance closest to where the users are. In a traditional, security architecture, the way I explained earlier, you have got your, internal network, you have got your DMZ, then you've got the public internet, and then you have security controls that you apply on DMZ, right? In that sort of architecture, you end up taking a lot of malicious and the bad traffic at your DMZ, right, on your DMZ, right? As your perimeter continues to evolve, you need to think about, handling the security on a platform which can handle it closest to where the attackers are, right? And deliver the performance close to where the users are. So if the attack originates from a very different remote geography, you do not have to wait for it to traverse through the internet and land at your doorstep. Rather, you can apply edge security architecture, using platforms such as Akamai that helps you, protect and secure your content, closest to where the threats are actually originating from, rather than letting it go all the way to your data centers or your government cloud, right? You can deliver better performance by using different modules within that platforms. Since we are closest to the user, we are able to, intercept the connection better. We are able to deliver the performance better. So the edge security architecture is a new paradigm of looking how the security architecture should evolve, more so for different disjointed systems, right? For different government entities that operate, perhaps silos, there are a lot of data and applications that reside across different data centers and government cloud services. An example, how do you apply, using a unified platform or unified security control platform, rather, the consistent security measures across, the different entities and the agencies? That's what the edge security architecture can help you achieve. Now, summing this up, this is my last slide. What I wanted to bring your attention towards is, what are some of the things you can do, some of the practices that we see across, different governments and agencies globally that can help you apply the right security strategy and reduce the risk because of cyber threats, right? So, there are definitely evolving threats. You're seeing threats targeted towards APIs, IoTs, threats in form of ransomware. That's where we need to start thinking about embracing new technologies such as the use of cloud, AI and ML-based systems to combat the newer sort of attacks, right? The other challenge that we often run into is that, the data acting in silos and the threat visibility. That's where you have to think about using APIs as the integration platform for data analytics and across your threat intelligence platform that give you holistic visibility of how this threat intelligence is shaping up for the different sort of digital infrastructure that you want to protect, right? Applying the cybersecurity broader to the government community or agencies is another challenge in itself. How do you make sure you apply the consistent layer of security controls across many of your agencies, or many of your digital footprints, right? That's where you need to embrace new architectures, such as what I explained earlier, edge security architecture that provide you better scale, agility, and robust security, right? And finally, legacy systems. That's continue to be one of the most challenging aspect as you move towards the digital transformation is continue to look at the vulnerabilities through those systems by using the right vulnerability management practices, and make sure that you apply the security patches on the right time as you move towards the legacy, from the legacy architecture to the modernized architecture. So with that, I want to thank you all for your time today, and I'm hoping that we provided you with at least good insights that help you devise better security strategy for your digital footprint. Thank you.